Welcome back, you guys. Kick back and relax as we dive into another episode of Skip to Saturday. Good morning, everyone. This is the last episode of this season. I am super excited about that. I don't know about you guys, but I am glad that season 2 is over. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but maybe you guys did. For majority of the season, I did this tired and I was sick, I was stressed. So I am very happy that season 2 is done with. I did have a lot of fun. I had amazing guests, but yeah, it just felt like I was dragging my feet across the finish line. So I'm happy to take a little break from the podcast. Now, if you're new to season 2, if you didn't listen to season 1 at all, this last episode, which is the wrap up of season 2, basically what I do is I just kind of sum up everything that happened throughout season 2, or in the season, I should say. And this wrap up episode will cover some of the stuff that I did not get to either share with you guys in the previous episodes, or it was taken out during the editing process. So that all of that falls into this episode. So I don't have a lot to share for season 2 wrap up, but in season 1, if I remember correctly, there was I think for every episode, there was something that I either took out or was missing. And I shared that in the wrap up episode, which is episode 12. So for episode 1, it's the one where I was talking about dying friendships. And I recorded that episode twice because I wasn't sure if I was giving too much information away in the first recording. And I know that for podcasts, people want to hear the juicy stuff. They want to hear the details, right? In that moment, I wasn't sure if I wanted to share all of that because, and only because, she wasn't here to tell her side of the story. I felt like I was really painting her in a bad light, and I didn't want to do that. I didn't want anyone to think that she was this horrible person, because I know if I gave more details and if I gave more examples of what happened, she would have come across that way. And that was not my intention for that episode. It was not my intention to drag her through the dirt. I really just wanted to focus on the fact that there are some friendships that you will have in your life where they will come to an end, and nothing dramatic has to happen for that to happen. And like I said, in that episode, I shared that, there was no drama, there's no negativity. We were good to one another. It was always positive, but there was that lack of effort and lack of communication. And it was, friendships and relationships are a two-way street. And at some point that became a one-way street, and where I was carrying the mutual effort of that friendship. It took me some time to come to terms with the fact that this is what it is. And you have to decide whether or not this is someone that you want to keep in your life or not, right? So that entire episode, I was covering about that and how that made me feel, and what led me up to that decision where I was like, okay, she is no longer a part of my life. And I also didn't want it to be boring, because I kind of got bored with sharing all the little details, and I was like, I don't know if they want to hear this. So I redid that episode. And I was much happier with the second version than the first one. And what I did not include in the second version of that episode was a huge thank you to my friends and my sister who listened to me vent about that friendship and the things that went on. I don't know how I forgot to address that in the second recording, but I did record it in the first one. So I want to give a huge shout out and a huge thank you to all my friends and my sister who listened to me talk about it over and over again. I sounded like a broken record. I really did. Hats off to everyone who was there for me through that journey where I felt really, really hurt and felt down because of that friendship. So thank you for being there. Thank you for your love and your support, unconditional love and support. I really, really appreciate it. The last thing I'm going to mention for that episode is that when I had shared that story of me having, having lunch with her, we set it up. I set it up actually. And I found the place and, we agreed on a time, right? And she showed up, but then she was gone for about 45 minutes at least. Everyone said to me when they heard that story, they were like, that would have been my red flag. You know, like she's not a good friend. That was unacceptable. And I would have cut her off right then and there. And I was like, damn, because like I gave her multiple opportunities afterwards, to, be a better friend. She did apologize for that, just in case if you're listening to this episode and you haven't listened to the first episode in the season. She did apologize for that day. But for some people, when I shared that story, they're like, no, that's where I draw the line, because it wasn't a life or death situation. She could have waited. She could have taken the call some other time later that day. She could have sent that person a text message telling them that, hey, I'm at lunch right now. I can't take your call. And since she did take the call, she could have said, hey, I only got 5 minutes. Like she said, she was going to take only 5 minutes when she told me that she's going to take the call, and then ended it there. That courtesy wasn't there. And I learned now that, when someone does show you courtesy or the lack of, it's a huge sign. I feel like it's a very huge telling sign of where that friendship is headed in the long run. Because for me in the moment, it didn't seem like anything. It felt really harmless. And I just took it as like, okay, you know what? These things happen, right? But then when stuff started to add up later down the road, looking back at that part where we were supposed to have lunch and she was like gone for majority of the time, that was like definitely a big red flag that I missed. And then part of the problem is that I give people too many chances. So that's something that I'm working on right now. And just for the record, if it was a surface level friendship, it wouldn't have affected me the way it did. And I would have certainly not invited her over to my house, because I don't do that. If I'm close to you and you get invited over, that means that I value our friendship. I trust you and I appreciate you and I love you and I care for you. But if you don't get to come to my house, that's because I don't see this friendship actually making it. Anyways, moving on to episode 2. Meera Sharma was on that episode, and we had recorded that episode really early on. And when it came out, she listened to it. She was like, oh my God, like I've changed so much since we recorded that episode, because like she did the opposite of what she was currently doing when we recorded the episode. Like she DJ'd over the summer. She went out a lot. And in that episode, she talked about like, being at home and, just like, spending more time with herself. But like a lot changed within the span of 6 months. So that was, pretty cool to hear. So episode 3, it was the authentic love map from confusion to clarity. And that episode, what I didn't get to share with you guys is that the reason why I shared stories from both men and women, and this is that episode where I talked about a healthy relationship and the people shared their stories of like when they found their one, and I had shared stories from women and men. And the reason why I shared the stories from both female and males was because I wanted it to resonate with everyone who was listening. It's easy for women to talk about how much they love their man, but you don't hear that often from men. And I really wanted women to know that there are men out there who love and adore their partner, even after 20 plus years of marriage. And I wanted men to know that there are other men out there who love being with their wives. They don't dread it. They like being around them. And to simply put everything, like not everyone is miserable in their marriages. And I feel like sometimes I hear a lot of that from both sides. And I'm just like, I don't believe that everyone is miserable in their marriage. So that's why I shared stories from women and men about when they found their one and how they felt about it. I also made a point about going to therapy. I've quoted Mark Manson in the previous season, and I'm going to quote him again. Therapy doesn't fix life. It just drags out the blueprint your parents handed you and asks, you sure you want to keep living this way? So the reason why I shared that was because like all the stuff that we get stuck in, whether it's in friendships or relationships, at work, in our personal lives, when we don't know how to handle something or the way we're handling something isn't working no longer, it's because we're operating from a place of familiarity. Whether it's how you used to do things in the past or how you saw people around you doing things, and it was working for them. Therapy makes you pay attention to those things, and it gives you a route to take to handle what's not working anymore differently, if that makes any sense. So I will always be an advocate for therapy. And I've seen so many comments on social media like men need therapy, but they're the only ones that won't go. Now, I don't agree with that because I know some men who have gone to therapy, who are in therapy. So, it's definitely a blanket statement. I'm pretty sure if we were to look at the number of women and the number of men going to therapy, I think the number of women would be higher compared to the men. So I get that. But yeah, so I just feel like, when stuff is not working anymore, therapy is there as a tool to help you navigate that better. And it'll help you realize that, maybe you are stuck in your old ways, or maybe this is something that you're forcing and it truly isn't working. Now you've got to let it go, but you've got to come to that conclusion yourself. And therapy allows you to see all of those things. It opens your eyes. And I think it's very, very beneficial. Episode 7 was Dr. Monget's episode. The funny thing that happened in this episode was the fact that when he got on, right, I was really excited to have him on. And this has never happened to me, by the way. I forgot to hit record. We started, and 5 minutes in, I realized that I wasn't even recording the episode. And I had to tell him, I was like, I did something very stupid. He's like, what? And I was like, I forgot to hit record. And he was really good about it. He's really nice about it. I felt really embarrassed though, because I'm just like, what the hell? How did this happen? And so we had to start from the beginning again. And we had to re-record the intro and all that stuff. So yeah, I was shocked that it happened to me because I was really I'm really good with making sure that I hit record because there's not going to be an episode if I don't hit record, right? After having him on the podcast, I did make changes to my diet and lifestyle. So I, started drinking oat milk, and I've cut down on candies and chocolate, which made me crave chips for some reason. I don't know why, but it's something that I struggled with because I had to find that balance between still satisfying my sweet tooth, but then not overdoing it. And then, being very conscious of what I am eating. I've started to log my foods into my journal. So I keep a track of what I'm eating and how many calories I'm intaking, which has helped me lose weight as well, because that's something that I was struggling with. Having Dr. Monget on my podcast did change my life a little bit. So very grateful for that. I didn't cover men's mental health this season. I know I said it in the first season that I wanted to, dedicate one episode every season to men's mental health. I didn't get to do that this time around because I couldn't find someone to do that episode with. And I wanted to have a male's perspective on that, right? And I didn't find anyone, to be honest. So I felt disappointed in myself because, I said I was going to do that and then I failed. So I do apologize for that if you guys are looking forward to a men's mental health episode. I am going to try to find someone for season 3. And it's harder than I thought, honestly. Not every man is going to want to talk about his struggles. There are some out there who do talk about their depression or anxiety, and but they've got a big platform as well. So it might be harder for me to get in touch with these people. And then there's people who aren't very social, but have gone through that kind of stuff and don't want to share their stories. So it's I did not think it was going to be a challenge, but I learned that it is a challenge to find someone to do that episode. But I'm hoping that in season 3, I can find someone to do that episode with. So we jumped from episode 3 all the way to episode 7 and then 8, which was Ruby's episode, Ruby Doll. I have been following her for a while and I love her work. And I was so excited that she agreed to be on my podcast. And we could not get a video for that episode because when she hopped on, first I couldn't hear her voice. I could see her, but I couldn't hear her voice. And we struggled to figure that out, what was happening, because that was the first time I ran into that problem. We tried Zoom, and then I tried to do a Google Meet, and I couldn't record for some reason on Google Meet. Zoom, I can't remember what happened, but I feel like I had to have an account. I think that's what it was. And I was like, you know what? This is cutting into my time with her. Like, it's going to take me, 5 minutes probably to set up everything, to create an account, get everything going and all that stuff, you know? So I was like, maybe I might have to like reschedule her and do this episode another time. But then she unplugged her AirPod. I think she was using her AirPods, and then she connected them back. And that's when I could hear her. And I was like, okay, thank God we've got voice. You know, that's the most important part because I can do without video. And so, yeah, so we couldn't do video because like when we were doing video, I couldn't hear her. And when I was finished recording with her, I realized because her headphones were the issue, we could see each other. And when we were recording, we could see each other. So we could have recorded with the video and I could have had that to promote the episode. I don't know if that makes any sense to you guys, but it was like a mind fuck for me, honestly. And I'm hoping that I don't run into any kind of difficulty in season 3 because I hate having to scramble to figure out what is going on because I'm doing this on my own. There's no, like, I don't have a producer, you know, sitting in the corner, checking the sound, making sure it's recording and that, you know, he or she can hear us and the video is on, you know, I'm doing this on my own. And these people, the guests that have agreed to be on my podcast have taken time out of their day to do this. So I have to be like, you know, on my A game and give them the best experience. So I hope to God that this doesn't happen to me again in the future seasons. Episode 9 was a new one that I did, which was the recent findings. I can't remember exactly what I named that episode, but originally I was thinking of just simply naming the episode Did You Know? And then call it Recent Findings. So in that episode, which is a new one, I was like, you know what? I love random stuff. I love, you know, learning. And part of this podcast is about, you know, expanding your horizons and learning new things. And I hadn't done that in the first season in this way where I just share random stuff, right? Random knowledge. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this. And I had a lot of fun doing the research. I don't know if you guys enjoyed it or not. Let me know if you guys did, or if you didn't. It's okay either way. But yeah, so I had a lot of fun. I do plan on allocating one episode in the next season. So if you have anything you want to share that you find interesting, share that with me and I'll share on my podcast. Episode 10 was with my dad. We talked about plane crashes, obviously. He loves to watch airplane crashes. He likes to know what went wrong, and it's like a learning experience for him, honestly. I do not watch them with him because I already have fear of flying. I don't want to add to that by watching a real life airplane crash. But that episode did like give me comfort. The FAA really hones in with the safety and they do their best to make sure that an accident doesn't occur again in the same way. You know, obviously in the future, you can't prevent everything from happening, but they do take like extreme measures to make sure that like an accident, like anything that we've seen or heard about, it doesn't happen again. So that gave me comfort. Episode 11 was the Hawaiian escape episode, which was the last one. I don't have much to add to that one, honestly. I think I covered everything. I feel like I went into too much detail. Like, I'm not sure if you guys appreciated that I gave you my like itinerary, which was like, I had no itinerary, but like I gave you my breakdown of what happened every single day. I don't know if that was boring for you guys. Again, you can let me know. I'm not going to be offended. But yeah, I feel like I really did cover everything that happened on that trip. And I'm glad that I went. I know I said that in the previous episode that I'm happy I didn't cancel. Now, I know that this is obvious, but season 2 had a different soundtrack to it. And the reason why is because my producer for the first season was supposed to give me my second soundtrack for season 2, which he never did. He always said that he was, and he never did. I still need to talk to him about that. So I had to find someone else to create the soundtrack for season 2. And I was in a rush to get it done because I was still like debating on should I use season 1 soundtrack or should I make a whole new one, right? So when I finally made that decision, it was like too close to the season 2 release. So when we went over season two's soundtrack, I wasn't 100% happy with it, but I was like, this will do. And looking back at it, I'm just like, I could have just stuck to the season one soundtrack because I liked that so much more compared to this one. Because I feel like this one was too mellow. Like, I really don't know what happened to my brain when I agreed to the final cut, because I could have said, I don't like this, and we could have went back, started all over again, but I just, I think it was just like, okay, I need to get this out. I was in a rush, and I probably didn't have enough time to actually go back to the drawing board and redo everything. So I think that's what it was. But yeah, like, every time when I was putting together the episodes and I had to add the soundtrack, and I was like, I don't really like this. It just sounds too mellow, too dull. But when I heard it on its own, it sounded fine. But when I put it together with my episodes, I didn't like it. So, yeah. So if you guys didn't like it, it's okay. We were on the same boat. Season 2 reached 31 countries and 194 cities, which is pretty cool to me. I remember when I was looking at the stats, there are people in Brazil listening to Skip to Saturday. I would have never thought someone in Brazil would be listening to my podcast. So it's a good feeling. Like, I love that, and it makes me happy. And I hope, it continues to grow if I continue, releasing more episodes. But it's really fun to see, where my listeners are around the world. The one last thing that I want to share with you guys is what Bad Bunny said during his performance at the Super Bowl. I loved his performance, by the way. And the fact that it was all in Spanish was so freaking beautiful. I really love that. I love that he, showed appreciation to his culture. So this is what he said. And because everything was in Spanish, some people might not have understood it. I've seen a lot of videos where they've translated his lyrics and what he said. So if you haven't come across that, I will translate it for you. He said, "Good evening, California. My name is Benito Antonio Martinez Ocasio. And if I'm here today at Super Bowl 60, it's because I never, ever stopped believing in myself. You should also believe in yourself. You're worth more than you think. Trust me." And if you guys don't know his backstory, 10 years ago, he was bagging groceries at the grocery store, and he would independently upload his music to YouTube. Fast forward, he won Album of the Year at the Grammys. He was the first artist ever to win Album of the Year with an entirely Spanish language album. And he won 2 other Grammys as well, one which was for Best Global Music Performance, and the other one was Best Musica Urbana Album, and he was selected to perform for the halftime show at the Super Bowl. Now, this man came from absolutely nothing. He wasn't a Nepo baby, and he made it because, like he said in his message, if I'm here today at the Super Bowl, it's because I never ever stopped believing in myself. And that's the message that I want to leave you guys with. You can achieve all the goals that you want in life if you don't give up and believe in yourself. It's something that my teachers would ingrain in our minds over and over again when we were in school. So for me, it's not novel, but I feel like for some people, the idea of believing in what you want, what you deserve, and believing in yourself is novel. The thing is, when you truly believe in your own capability, you won't need the support from others. Like, we always are looking for support from other people or our family members. But when you finally get to where you want to be, you'll have only yourself to thank for, and you won't have to worry about other people taking the credit for your success or having to hear, if it wasn't for me, because people are like that and some aren't, so, it's not everyone's gonna be like that, but I've heard so many stories where people do take the credit for someone else's success. And it's not fair because, at the end of the day, you have to put in the hard work. No one else is going to do that for you. So at the end of the day, when you believe in yourself, trust me, your life does begin to change. It might not happen overnight, but over time it does. So I don't want you guys to forget that. You heard it from Bad Bunny, and I'm just relaying the message to you guys. As for season 3, I don't know when it will be coming out, but I do anticipate that it will come out later this year. So keep a lookout for the release date on Instagram. If you aren't following Skip to Saturday on Instagram, now is the time to do that. I also want to thank everyone who has posted on their stories over and over again. Anytime an episode drops or a reel that I post, I appreciate the love and support. It really does go a long way. You guys posting on your stories or sharing it with your friends and family, it ultimately just expands the exposure for this podcast. So I really do appreciate that. It means the world to me that you guys do that on your own. Like, I don't have to ask anyone to do that for me. And that's a wrap for season 3, you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please take care of yourselves, take care of your mental health, enjoy life, have fun, try new things, travel whenever you can, and spend more time with the people that you love and care about, and appreciate all that you guys have. Take care.